And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the PCC Multiverse right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you watching and listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you could like, share, subscribe, follow, or do whatever it is that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, of course, Vampires and Vitae, Wild Beyond the Witchlight is part of the Wizards and Wine Emporium, and all the great things that we do right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Go ahead and check out Vampires and Vitae and Wizards and Wine today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, also as well, we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, each and every day at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Plus, there's great tabletop RPG videos there and so much more. If you can go ahead and support all that, plus our website, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is deciding whether or not she goes tiara on or tiara less for today's show. It's my good friend indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what she's doing today at the Vampires and Vitae, plus also so at Wizards and Wine. It is my good friend. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, great to have you back, my friend. I've got a little thing in there and here and there to talk about because there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of possible best of 2023 stuff that's already been out, that's already debuted, and that's coming right around the corner this weekend.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, at least one of them is Mr. Keanu Reeves back in the big screen, which is always exciting for everyone.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely talk John Wick 4, which is getting some extremely high reviews. That's coming up on the show. Secession. Everybody's going gaga on Secession. That is also getting extremely high reviews. We'll talk about the final season of Secession. And also, speaking of final seasons, I've got your predecessor to the PCC Multiverse, Marcus de la Garza. He's coming in the third segment to talk about his favorite show that is ending after 3 seasons, and that is Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus. After 3 seasons, it's finally calling it a day. We'll share his thoughts on the 3 seasons that's coming up on the show. Plus, we got a ton of things to talk about. But first off, how you been, my friend?
I've been good. I've been keeping busy. We are back on a regular release schedule for Vampires and Vitae, so you'll start to catch up with us this coming Friday. And yeah, we're excited in case you've missed the live streams for people to finally be able to dig into that audio that I've been extremely lax in publishing recently. So I'm glad to be back on the editing train.
I know there's been some controversy with my daughter's favorite group Twice, and that's all I'll say about that. So that K-pop group who has scored very well as far as a Billboard, unfortunately, it's had some controversy surrounding it as well. But one group that's had its controversy in the past that is also selling well with a recently debuted album is U2. With Songs of Surrender, a remaking by Bono The Edge of about 40 different hits that they've scored over the years that they remade and have remastered, and it really sounds good. I've actually had a chance to listen to some of the songs, but even better than the highly rated Songs of Surrender, my friend, Disney Plus. So weird because, you know, they're so associated with Apple, but on Disney Plus, there's a documentary that just came out last week, Bono and the Edge, A Homecoming, that features David Letterman hopping over to Ireland to visit with the group as they, he actually visits the whole entire great places that are there to see in Ireland, goes and does a lot of things as far as what, you know, interacts with the people and some of the customs and things of that nature, but also a live performance from Bono and the Edge was also recorded at that time, with some of these remasterings and remakings of the actual songs, so many of them that they had, and it's interspersed around this documentary. And I got to say, I know I'm a U2 stan, and a big shout out to TJ Johnson as well. We truly appreciate it. You're back. Get back on, my friend, whenever you can. Just got to hit me up. I will say though that U2, I am a stan. I admit that. I really love their music. I just talked to you about how they're going to play at the Sphere here later this year here in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the best music documentaries I've ever seen. It is really poignant, emotional, tells a lot about the band's history. It is focusing on Bono The Edge because one member is actually directing a movie at this point in time, where he's heavily involved in a movie, and the other one is coming off of surgery. So the other one won't be able to be ready in time for the Sphere, but he will be able to be ready, I guess, when they go on tour next year. But I will say, though, I am excited for everybody to go ahead and see. If you were anywhere, anything remotely interested in U2, Disney Plus, which is in sore need of good programming, after they really did the great job with the Beatles doc that they had,
Mm-hmm.
did a great number again with David Letterman and U2, Bono and The Edge, a sort of homecoming.
Yeah, I think if you have David Letterman involved in any kind of interview style show or documentary or mockumentary or what have you, I think it's going to do well. Letterman seems to be able to get, really good stuff out of his interview subjects. So I'm not surprised to hear that it's very good. And it's definitely one that I will check out. I mean, it's not going to be on my gotta watch it tonight list, but it's definitely going to be on my. I know, I'm sorry,
It
but
needs to be.
it will be one that I definitely check out. I mean, coming from the radio background that I have, I've been playing U2 for years on the radio and talking about the band. I don't think I ever interviewed them. It seems to me I haven't. I feel like it's something I would remember. I also have a terrible memory, admittedly. So, but yeah, no, it's always interesting to sit down and be able to get the straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, look into these bigger than life bands. If it's the Rolling Stones, if Prince had done something like this before his unfortunate passing, it's absolutely something that I would have watched and watched and watched. So I understand where you're coming from, and it'll be something that I absolutely check out eventually.
It is, again, Bono and The Edge, a sort of homecoming. It is also very much involved with it is David Letterman, as you actually explore the beautiful country of Ireland with David Letterman, as he explores the cities, also explores the shores, and some really nostalgic stuff there. And absolutely a great, great documentary. I cannot say enough good things about it. So if you got Disney Plus, you've got some good content waiting for you with U2. But there's also some great content also on streaming, because as we'll talk about later, with Marcus de la Garza talking about Ted Lasso season 3, but also another final season is Succession. And Succession, that very much critically lauded, yet very mature and very out loud, in your face battle for power and control of a media empire, is once again back on for his final season, season 4. Your thoughts on Succession? This is can't miss television viewing.
Yeah, and it's always great to see. I mean, you can argue that the reason why Succession is interesting is the same reason why. Oh shoot, I just had it in my head. The Kevin Costner show with
Oh,
the horses and the
Yellowstone.
ranch. Yellowstone, thank you. Same reason why that show, partly, I think, is so interesting for people to watch. And it's that interfighting inside of these incredibly wealthy families. And I think we just love to see rich folks doing questionable things in a fictional way.
Mhm.
Lord heaven knows we see enough of it in real life, but to be able to see it fictionalized like that is always interesting to people. And when you have writers who can continue to deliver twist after twist after twist, then you have a recipe for absolute success. So I'm not surprised that a show like this is doing so well.
It's been a great success so
Yeah.
far. Again, as another show like Ted Lasso, which is going away all too soon.
Mhm.
It's not going to overstay its welcome, which I think is a good thing. But I think a lot of people saw that these series could go 5 or 6 seasons at the very least, and they're both ending around 3 and 4. So that's very interesting to see where Secession will end up. But if you have thoughts out there on Secession season 4, let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Another show before we hit the break that I want to talk to you about, my friend, is The Mandalorian. And I was just popped in my head right now that there's a possibility that that show could end after 4 or 5 seasons, somewhat prematurely. I think that would be, for the, I guess the part of it that people want to say is, hey, okay, I guess from a creative standpoint, it's going to be really good if they end it when I guess 4 or 5 seasons or whatnot. But if they keep it elongated, it's always great for the fans. But you're seeing a point now where you're starting to see a little bit more of Grogu's backstory. You're also seeing the possibility of him becoming a Mandalorian per se.
Mhm.
Your thoughts on the Mandalorian? Once again, Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian are heavily involved with the Mandalores, the strict Mandalores who always have to wear the helmet. He's been redeemed. They just ended up saving a foundling from the clutches of an evil bird-like creature, and were able to go ahead and prove themselves to the entire Mandalorian tribe there. Your thoughts on the Mandalorian where it stands now? I mean, it's kind of different than it was. The pacing and the locales are kind of different this time around from last season to this season. It's kind of taking a different approach. Not saying I don't like it, actually, I kind of do, but it's a little bit different than what I saw from last season.
I'm enjoying it though. I'm enjoying the ride so far. I think that the story is interesting, and going back to Mandalore and down into the mines and the living waters and all of that, and it's been
Bathe, you must bathe in the living waters.
yeah, all of that has
Dinjarin.
it's been really very interesting, and I'm really enjoying this season. And I mean, I enjoyed the previous seasons, but this one, I don't know, it just seems fun. I don't know how else to put it. It's a fun watch.
Absolutely. But there can't be any idle time. Something's got to happen. Even when you think there's going to be idle time where they're just going ahead and practicing fighting and doing things. Oh, all of a sudden the bird creature whoop, takes the kid away, and everybody's got to spend the rest of the episode chasing after it. So that's the one thing I see in The Mandalorian is that they're not going to have any idle time.
Yeah.
And developing characters and story arcs is going to take longer than normal simply because of the fact that they've got to, or at least they feel like they have to, throw in action every single episode, whether it's betterment for the story or not. But for the most part, I'm really having a good time watching.
Yeah, I think they may have taken, some of the feedback, from the book of Boba Fett, and, how people found that to be quite slow until the
Mhm.
Mandalorian showed up in that show. So, I think that they've taken notes, and I think that,
They've swung it to the other side of the pendulum.
yeah, but I'm not upset about a show that moves quick and that has fast
Yeah.
pacing. I like that. I like when I turn off a TV show and I'm like, what just happened? That was wild. And then you find yourself having to rewatch it before, the next episode. So you make sure that you got all of the little Easter eggs and all the little nuances that kind of pop in here and there in the show. I think
Mhm.
it's great.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm having a pretty good time with it. It sounds like you are as well. If
Mhm.
everybody out there has any thoughts on The Mandalorian so far after the Foundling episode, please let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think The Mandalorian is stacking up this season from last season. Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, we're back with the PCC Multiverse, my friend. It is John Wick 4 opening this weekend. We talked about when we were doing a movie preview about how this period of time is filled with movies. This
Mhm.
next, this certain 5 week period between mid March to early April is filled with a whole bunch of movies, actually all the way even to mid-April when you go to Renfield, which has actually just dropped its final trailer, which we actually showcased on the Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. But yeah, it all these movies are being slammed at you in the spring session. I'm not sure that's wise. In hindsight, we already seen one casualty in Shazam, Fury of the Gods, that really has been put out to pasture and has absolutely done terrible at the box office and is going to be probably considered a bomb when all is said and done. But when it comes to John Wick 4, the advance word is tremendous. The box office prognostications are highly strong. There's a possibility it could get 80 to 90 million domestically in its first weekend, even 100. I'm going to say maybe that's out of reach, but still, for a movie that started out as a smaller marketed movie with a Keanu Reeves, who was at that time not the Keanu Sans that we were seeing at this time. He was I don't say struggling actor, but he didn't have the kind of roles then. He had those movies of the early 2000s had left him behind, and he was stuck doing certain roles. He got this John Wick role and landed it, and basically have killed it ever since. And it's led to a Keanu Sans that I think has really been great for him, and all kudos to him. But your thoughts on John Wick 4 as it hits theaters this weekend?
Yeah, it's finally, I know I've probably said it a couple of times, but this is going to be the movie that gets me back into the movie theater.
It's gonna get me in the theater, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm really very much looking forward to it. I love the build of this universe and this world that all of these people exist in. I think it's really intriguing. I think that they give you just enough to make each movie feel fresh. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to paying too much money for popcorn, but sitting down and really enjoying a movie.
Absolutely. It's about 3 hours long, to
Mhm.
let everybody know. So people were worried, does it still have everything as far as the great storytelling, the background, the world, and the ambiance that's been created over the course of 3 films? Does it still have that? Does it play itself out? So far, the reaction from all the critics out there, or for a vast majority of the critics, says it's overwhelmingly good. So people got to check it out. It is John Wick 4. Really looking forward to it. I think that the possibility now remains, though, they've been very tight-lipped on if there ever is going to be a John Wick 5. If this movie blows up, they're almost obligated to end it on a John Wick 5 instead of John Wick 4.
Yeah, and that was actually an interview question that I was watching with Keanu earlier was, is there a John Wick 5? Is there a John Wick 6? And they were like, are you getting tired of this role? Are you getting tired of the physical demands that this role has? And he was like, no, when you have a passion project, you find a way. So that bodes nothing but good things, I think, for John Wick fans.
There you go, indeed. I'm happy to hear that. I know you are as well. But if anyone out there has thoughts on John Wick 4, if you've seen the movie this weekend, or if you are going to check it out this weekend, we'd love to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. One of the things I also wanted to talk to you about is a movie that came out with Taron Egerton called Tetris, which is based loosely, and I want to say very loosely. It's like Cocaine Bear. It takes a story from real life, the creation of Tetris, and it blows it up into Hollywood style about a spy thriller and chase to get the creator and the project Tetris itself, out of the Iron Curtain and into be able to go ahead and obviously mass market a creation that has since become one of the best selling or most played games of all time in video game history. Your thoughts on this, because it is intriguing, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, my friend, because what you see is not entirely how it played itself out.
Yeah, this will probably be a movie I will wait on. Tetris is fine, but I don't know that people are going to be storming the I don't know. I guess I haven't heard enough about the movie to really be able to weigh in on this one. I don't know that the story behind Tetris is one that a lot of people are still interested in.
again, that's why I think they're approaching it in a different way as far as a spy thriller. That's why they wanted to go ahead and necessitate itself to bring that aspect of it out. They're playing up the aspect on how it came to be as opposed to trying to create something else out of it, like making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. What
Right.
it's a video game movie, but it's not really a video game movie. It's about a video game movie being a video game being made, but more about how the challenges to get it out there to a mass market. That was I think the key of this movie is, but the thrilling supposed behind the scenes of it is really put in detail. So I think it's interesting. I think still though it's ticks me off though that for every video game announcement that's released as far as in a platform, or as you said me with the update on Gears of War, which you talked about I think in early February,
Yep.
has now got itself a writer who worked on Dune and some other great projects as well, now being given the task to write the Gears of War movie. We're hearing all this great stuff about other projects, but I've still got Mass Effect still not confirmed as of yet. So I'm still not happy about that we still haven't heard a 100% Mass Effect being somewhere on some entity in some form or fashion in a TV or movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you've been kind of flirting with the idea of Henry Cavill as Shepard, right?
That's something actually he flirted.
He's flirted with. Okay.
Okay, because 2 years ago, 2021, he was in a makeup chair on his Instagram,
Uh-huh.
and you could see in the reflection he was reading a script. He was reading a script or reading a screenplay. I'm sorry, giving a background. And if you zoomed in on the script or you zoomed in on the screenplay, you could actually see the words Reapers, Shepherds, key Mass Effect words that got the Mass Effect universe, i.e., me and others who are into the game, into an uproar about a possibility of it being a movie or a television series. Then the next year, last year, 2022, Deadline reported, which I do trust as a good source of entertainment news. It's one of the three I go to be honest with you, for most of my news. Actually, four if you include IGN, but Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and Variety. I go to those entities all the time for sources. They reported that Amazon was circling around a Mass Effect project. Well, unfortunately, that's all I've heard. It's felt to me like more like circling like in a drain and down into the toilet for me, because I haven't heard anything since. I'd love to get a hold of the Amazon Prime Video CEO or who's ever the big chief there and ask him or her, hey, point blank, can you at least give wink, wink, wink if it's actually going to happen or not? Can you at least, give me some kind of hope? And others out there. So we'll see. I think maybe you could get some new interest in it when Mass Effect 4, the Mass Effect new video game that Electronic Arts and BioWare are working on with the revival of Shepard, most likely, that we talked about on the Monday show, that ever comes about. I think by then, if it's a big hit, you'll see more interest in it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you may be waiting a little while because I'm starting to see some bubbling about Henry Cavill being first in line to take over from Daniel Craig as 007. So
And then you heard about the Call of Duty movie.
Yeah, he just seems to be tied to a whole lot of stuff right now. So I don't think the guy is really too worried about working right now.
No, that Superman thing, that's cool. That's cool. If I was ever to run into him or interview him, I'd say, so should I just attach you to every project to make it all easier?
Right. Yeah, the next time we hear about a project coming, I think we should just assume that Henry Cavill is somehow going to be involved in it.
I think the Warhammer is a done deal. I think if any of these fall out, it won't surprise me at all. But I would believe 100% that the Warhammer, which is his passion, which he will talk on and on nonstop to you about if you ask him about it, is what he's going to end up doing. That one I know for sure. If there's anything I could guarantee on or put the most money on here in Vegas, it would be for him to do that.
Yeah, I think the odds are pretty good for that one. The odds are in your favor.
Absolutely. Well, that's better than what it was for the Hunger Games.
Yes.
I was trying to do because, the odds were never in my favor there. But once again, it is so much a good part of what we're doing here. John Wick 4, the Tetris movie, Succession, Mandalorian, some great things we're talking about. But before we hit the break, my friend, wanted to ask you this before we get into video games on the backside. With one game I know in particular that you are looking forward to the most, but I want to hear the whole story about it too, about the whole
Yeah.
KFC end of it on
The
that too. But
incident. Yeah, we'll talk
yes,
about that.
that's on the back. That's going to take a lot of time, but
Uh-huh.
with also the other major show that's coming out that's also being highly, highly talked about, and that is Yellow Jacket season 2. That's coming to Showtime. That's coming out in here on the weekend. A lot of people are looking forward to it. Obviously, it tells a very sordid tale with the women's soccer team that crash lands, and then they show you like what they're like now later on, but the horrific things that might have happened they give hints to throughout the season 1 and so forth as they go back and forth in time. Your thoughts on Yellow Jackets from Showtime? This has been a key show for them and it's done really well in its first season. They were able to put out a second season rather quickly. So your thoughts on season 2 of Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, it's one that I'm like passively watching. Like I'll watch like 3 or 4 episodes at a time.
Mhm.
But it's good to see uh these channels that aren't necessarily known for these big explosive shows to have these really interesting stories that they're starting to tell. I think it's great, and I think that if you haven't watched the show, it's definitely worth giving it some of your time.
Well, there you go. I think it is something that, especially that first season, I know has really resonated with a
Mhm.
lot of people out there, and they were really high on it as far as one of the best of the year. I know there was a lot of clamor on that being one of the best shows of the year, so highly rated as well. So I'm telling you, Melinda, a lot of the stuff right now on television really highly rated, from The Mandalorian, The Last of Us was just finished, Succession. You've got Ted Lasso. You've got Yellow Jackets. U2, Bono and the Edge, a sort of homecoming. A lot of good stuff that's out there.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a consumer of entertainment. Absolutely. Thank
Uh,
goodness, because we went through a bit of a dry spell there for a while.
yeah, I agree. I think it does. I think there was a little bit of a dry spell. I agree with you on that. I've been saying for a long time that these streaming entities need to focus on the content, just making sure they have pointed content. Again, they could always go back to the Netflix, throw everything at a dartboard and see what sticks.
Mhm.
But at least you got to send us 3, 4, or 5 things on a regular basis that's quality, that's good, that gets people talking. HBO's been able to do that with The Last of Us. Who knows what Showtime may do with Yellow Jackets? Of course, we've got HBO again right after The Last of Us, now into Succession. So people talk about how that HBO's been losing money right or left after this HBO merger that they're doing. They're at least trying to get themselves on a better foot for 2023 with all the hit shows that they're putting out right now.
Yeah, because they axed like a whole bunch of stuff, didn't they?
Yes,
It
they
seems to
did.
me. Yeah. So I think that quality over quantity is probably a good decision for them right now in this kind of like turbulent time that they're navigating through. So I think that that was a smart move by the folks in charge for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm definitely looking forward to catching all this great stuff. Plus, John Wick 4. I don't know if I'm going to have all this time for all this pop culture, but we're sure darn going to try. That's for sure. I know Melinda is like psyched up to go ahead and catch some good media. I am as well. But if there's anything out there that you are really into that's just debuted in its first few episodes, or something that you really want us to get behind, please let us know. Pop Culture Cosmos on any social media outlet, or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up after the break, it is my good friend and Melinda's predecessor, Marcus de la Garza, the guy who actually was the guy that I tortured for years on this show before. Unfortunately, I'm doing the same to you.
Mm.
He actually is going to go ahead and come up next after the break, talk about Ted Lasso season 3, his thoughts, and how heartbreaking it is to find out that actually this is the last season, and what are his hopes as far as possible spin-offs or a movie sequel that could be on the making as well. So we talk about all those possibilities right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back out, and we're back to close out the show. It's the PCC Multiverse. It's Melinda Barkhouse Ross and me, Gerald Glassford. But before she gives you a full and complete update on what's going on with the Wizards of Wine and Vampires of Vitae, because you know you want it, you know you want to hear it, my friend, I'm going to tease you with the Resident Evil 4 remake first, because that is getting some high reviews as well. That did come out this weekend. I think that people need to go ahead and understand. As I spoke to TJ Johnson on it on the Monday show and previously, these video game remakes this year, with Resident Evil 4 getting a 10 from IGN and getting high marks all the way around, it's one of the highest rated games of this year. Also, as well, Dead Space. I understand the horror games; they're not your niche normally. But Metroid Prime Reloaded, all these 3 remakes done by top shelf or top tier developers, remade with care, love, and they're getting high ratings. As I said to TJ Johnson, I finally think for the first time in this console generation, or basically video game generation, that these teams are understanding when and how to remake a video game really, really special and bring it out to a new audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's, I mean, obviously that's the name of the game, is to, breathe some life back into these IPs and bring them to these new audiences, but also be able to say thank you to the fans who've been playing these games for years and in some cases have never stopped playing them. And I think that understanding the gaming community now, I feel like the gaming community has been upset about enough things and expressed their dislike for enough things over the years that it seems like developers are finally at a point where they're truly paying attention, and it's not just giving lip service anymore to fans. I think that they are truly starting to understand that if we're going to do this, we have to do it respectfully, we have to do it correctly, and we have to make sure that we are bringing something truly special to the fans who've been with us for, decades in some cases. And it's time for us as well to be able to take these great IPs that are going to be completely new to a younger segment of the audience as well, and be able to deliver to the level that they expect as well. So I think that finally it feels like gamers have been heard.
I hope so. Believe me, I hope so. We'll see. Although I kind of am not exactly thrilled about some of the Sony rehashing or remaking of fairly recent games like Horizon Forbidden West. That's in process. I think that's too short of a window. Personally, I really think that's too short. When you're remaking or re-envisioning a game from the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, I'll even stretch your imagination and say, okay, 2013 or 2014, like with The Last of Us. Okay, I get it. It's a 10-year-old game that's in the window. But when it comes to like a 5-6-year-old game and you're already starting to think about redoing it, I think that's a little much. And that's something we're going to be seeing in the not too distant future.
Sure, but in order to be able to, I think, keep some of those 5 or 6-year-old games relevant and interesting to an audience with the consoles that are out now, like the PS5 and the latest Xbox, I think that you need to refurbish those games so they look just as good as games that are coming out right now. I think that it's a matter of kind of keeping up with the Joneses a little bit, I think.
All right, but still, it's kind of irritating. I just paid
Absolutely.
$60 for this 4 years ago. Still looks great. You want it to make look. Do you want to make it look even greater? Okay, all right, but you want to make me pay $70 for it, because that's the going rate these days for these remakes that are on these next gen consoles. That's kind of irritating. So, all right, that's might be pulling my patience a little bit, but if people are buying it, I guess I can't argue with that, because ultimately that's where it comes from, is when you're putting your wallet down. If you think that this is going to be a worthwhile investment for you, then that ultimately will dictate how popular or unpopular these video game remakes are.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And because we're seeing it right now with the Prime Reloaded, from the Metroid Prime Reloaded for the Nintendo Switch. That has been huge as far as reselling, selling out everywhere. As far as the hard copies are concerned, which were supposed to have been in limited supply, Nintendo's rethought that and actually trying to produce more. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, they're doing well with that. The remake for Dead Space was a very good hit as well, and I think we're going to see the same starting this weekend for Resident Evil 4. The previous Capcom remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3 really, really good, and I think this is even better for them. So yeah, what are your thoughts out there on Resident Evil 4 being remade and being released this weekend? Please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. All right, my friend. Here comes the part that you've been wanting to talk about the most, because after a closed Diablo beta that was only open to whether you pre-order it, and also supposedly if you got a code for a KFC Double Down, if you ordered a KFC Kentucky Fried Chicken Double Down sandwich, you were supposed to get a code for the Diablo beta for last weekend. After all that fiasco that went on, which I guess was very successful, because even then it got over 1 million users. People are already talking about how many people played it then. There's an open beta this weekend for Diablo 4. Your thoughts on this? And again, I made the mistake of telling you about that KFC was doing a promo deal, and you and Robbie Ross got out of the house and attacked KFC, and it all went wrong from there.
Yeah, it sure did. And it turns out I was, following on Twitter and stuff like that, and we weren't the only people that it didn't work exactly as advertised for. And that was truly unfortunate. And the really very frustrating part of that whole experience was that, I went to KFC to get the code, and the code never arrived.
Oops.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe it was my mistake. So let me order, because it wasn't just on the Double Down sandwich. There were some different combos and other food items that you could get.
Okay,
that would
that
get
was the
you
one
code.
that was advertised out there, and that's what everybody was talking about.
Right. And so, and we got that, and we got 2 other meals that were also listed underneath the, hey, this will get you a Diablo code. So I went ahead and I ordered another sandwich. Just maybe my phone number wasn't right. Maybe my email, had sloppy fingers. Maybe when I tried to put that in, maybe there was a typo. And still no code. The frustrating part was that nobody seemed to be able to help me. Right. Nobody with their customer service was able to answer any questions that I had. Their automated prompt thing that they have on their website was absolutely useless. And you would call their customer service line, be on hold for 10 minutes, and then it would just hang up. Yeah, he sent an email, which I guess just went into outer space. Perhaps it's landed on Mars at this point. I'm not sure where it ended up, but it certainly didn't land in front of anybody who was willing to help me out at all. So that part was truly very frustrating. The bottom line is I'm going to play Diablo this weekend. I could have played it last weekend if KFC had to help me out a little bit and hooked a girl up, but they decided that wasn't the case. And it was that for me and, a few other people that I'd been following on Facebook as well. Not Facebook, sorry, on Twitter. So
this doesn't detract you in any way, shape, or form from playing Diablo 4.
it deters me from KFC. It doesn't deter me from Diablo.
I've got a real bad KFC and A&W Root Beer hospitalized me and my entire family when I was a kid. So
oh my gosh,
I've never stepped into a KFC. Well, I don't say I have stepped in KFC, but I've never eaten at a KFC again.
But yeah, I can understand that. That sounds like it was very traumatic for you and the family.
I'll tell you
And
about.
my experience wasn't quite that traumatic, but it was close.
Okay.
There was no hospital visit needed, but there was just a lot of
But you,
frustration in the house last weekend.
it sounded like for a little bit from the DMs I got there, but you're about ready to put someone in the hospital.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I might have been a little heated for a minute, but I did calm down. It was like, okay, step back from this, girl. It is a video game. It's gonna be okay. At the very worst, what's gonna happen is you'll play it in June. So that's the worst thing that's gonna happen here. Take a step back from all of this and give it 5 minutes and come back to it. And yeah, so but everything that I'm reading about people who were able to get in and didn't have to wait in the huge queues that there were to actually get into the servers and stuff, and were able to play through the first act of the game. I've heard nothing but good stuff, which I'm absolutely over the moon about. So the things that I'm hearing about the game, even though I wasn't able to play it, KFC, I'm glad to hear that things are good for the next coming of Diablo.
But it is this weekend. It is the open beta for Diablo 4. Are you ready for it? Finally, after so much time to play Diablo 4.
I'm so ready for it. I have pre-bought my 5-hour energy so I can get in some good game time this weekend.
Okay, fair enough. Are you actually going to be acknowledging your husband if he actually should appear in your house during that time?
Well, you see, I've kind of lucked out a little bit because he's going to be at work for most of the weekend up at the Las Vegas ballpark. So he's going to be off doing that. I'm going to be home, figuring out all of the tricks for Diablo 4. And then when he comes home, I'll just be able to kick his butt. So it's going to be pretty fun for me. So I'm very excited.
Is at any point in time you're going to text him with a picture of you smiling, playing Diablo 4, saying, "Wish you were here"?
That will happen many times, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Just wanted to make sure. Yes. You got to love the marriage between these two. It's so genuine and warm.
No, it truly is. We just love we any opportunity to tease each other is a good opportunity. I think it's become a little bit of our love language, aside from roll me an insight check.
Okay, fair enough indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on the open beta this weekend for Diablo 4? Please let us know your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, it's a great episode, but any last thoughts, hint, plug, before we head on out?
Yes. So Vampires and Vitae, we're in this funny flux right now, where because of the ball season now is kind of in starting up. So Robbie's commitment to the ballpark takes priority over Vampires and Vitae. Shocking, but it is true. So we've kind of unofficially paused until we can figure out where the schedule is going to land and if we need to move the day for the live stream and all of that stuff. But we are back to releasing regular podcast episodes starting tomorrow. So if you've been a little bit behind, starting tomorrow, you're going to be able to get caught back up. And for Wizards and Wine, I get back to the Halifax table this coming Monday. And I've got a feeling, because this chapter that we're in for Tither, I knew was going to be short. And I have a feeling they're going to face off against a hag this coming Monday, which is really quick. It was only, I think, 3, maybe 4 sessions at most. So there was no lie in that when I was researching everything about the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So there could be some high drama, intense combat moments coming our way on Monday with Wizards and Wine.
Sounds good. Sounds good indeed. So check it out today, Wizards and Wine, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And for great sessions, you can also check out Vampires and Vitae, wherever you get your podcasts. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, who is still mad at KFC, well, I guess I am too, but I'm going to go ahead and...
For very different reasons, and yours perhaps a little bit more valid than mine.
And a little bit longer, yes. My problems with the kernel, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
But for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day. And thanks so much again to our good friend Marcus de la Garza for stopping by, talking some Ted Lasso Season 3. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and be safe.